Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Fareed Ahmed, and I was thinking to record a message for all of you, especially all my students and all my friends and everyone out there. I've realized that we live in a community where we focus a lot on education and we focus a lot on doing PhD, master and graduation from abroad. But I was thinking that what benefit is it giving to us? I understand that it's giving a lot of economic benefit. I understand it's giving us a lot of benefit in terms of status, in terms of execution of that knowledge, but it's not really giving us a lot of benefit in the hereafter. So a person who haven't gone to Oxford University or who haven't gone to even a good school might end up in a better place in paradise in comparison to that person who has done a lot of PhDs but is not good to mankind, but he is not good to the Creator himself. So I urge all of you to seek Islamic knowledge, and the reason why we need to seek Islamic knowledge, I've gathered a list of reasons why should you be seeking Islamic knowledge. I've gathered a list of reasons why you should be seeking Islamic knowledge. Oh my dear brothers and sisters, I really value you, and I value you as an asset. I value you as an asset for this ummah and for this country. And I'm being very truthful. I'm not making this up. Islam emphasizes a lot on seeking knowledge. In fact, knowledge is the only thing which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked to increase by telling us in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Messenger of Allah, Kul Rabbi Zidni Ilma, that O Messenger of Allah, say, O Allah, increase in my knowledge. The Messenger of Allah said in one of the narrations that seeking knowledge is obligatory, is a fard on every believing man and woman. And you guys have sought knowledge. You have sought best of the knowledge. You guys know English. And you are one of the few percentage in this country and one of the few percentage throughout the world who have the intellect, who know how to read, who know how to write, who can do assessment, who can calculate financial statements, who can operate, who can be very assertive lawyer. You have all the faculty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. But what's missing? What's missing is the Islamic knowledge that you need to seek. Now, a lot of people, when they do O-levels, when they do A-levels, when they go to university, when they go to real life, they actually don't know how to offer a prayer. And I'm not making this up. A lot of us do not know what dua should we be saying in a funeral prayer when someone from our relative, when our father, our sister, our mother, our wife dies. Subhanallah, this is the dilemma that a person who is a very good lawyer, a barrister, a doctor, someone who has done post-graduation doesn't even know a single dua. What should he be doing? How should he be leading the prayer? He doesn't know anything. And this is the reason why we Muslim Ummah are on the receiving end. Dear brothers and sisters, Islam makes seeking knowledge compulsory. In fact, the first verse, the first word that comes in the first revelation is Iqra, read. And you guys are fortunate enough to read. But the true knowledge in Islam is the knowledge of Wahi. It's the knowledge of Quran and Sunnah. Let me ask a rhetorical question. Have you read Quran throughout your life with meaning and understanding? And I assume a lot of you do not even have read that. Have your parents read it? A very small percentage in this world have read Quran with meaning and understanding. And the true knowledge in Islam is actually the knowledge of Wahi. The contemporary knowledge, the knowledge about biology, physics, chemistry, mathematics actually helps us understand about the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It actually helps us to know the meaning from Quran. But the true knowledge is the knowledge of Wahi, which you should be seeking. Now, knowledge can be broadly categorized into two things. One is al-Ayn and one is al-Kifayah. al-Ayn means the knowledge you need to seek because of the position you are in. So for instance, it's al-Ayn for each one of us to memorize namaz. For instance, it's al-Ayn for each one of us to memorize Surah Al-Fatiha because it comes in Salah. It's al-Ayn for each one of us to memorize some portion of Quran which we can recite in Quran. It's al-Ayn for us, each one of us, to know the basic knowledge of ghusl, to know the basic knowledge of the tenets of Islam. But farz-e-ayn for someone might be farz-e-kifayah for someone else. What do I mean by farz-e-kifayah? Farz-e-kifayah means that knowledge which some people seek, then it's not obligatory for each one of us to seek. So for instance, you might be a doctor. So it's farz-e-ayn for you to actually know what are the guidelines which Islam shares on surgery? What are the guidelines? What are the conditions in which you can perform an abortion? What are the guidelines? What are the conditions in which you can do plastic surgery? What are the guidelines in which you can make a certain entry? If you are a chartered accountant, you need to know that which transactions are allowed in Islam and which transactions are not allowed in Islam. This is knowledge that is obligatory on each one of you, depending on your position. Now, when you need to seek Islamic knowledge, what you need to do is, the first thing you need to do is you need to get connected with authentic scholars. And a lot of problem in our society is that the religious class, which doesn't really present a good Islamic image, which doesn't really project a good Islamic creed, which isn't on the right creed of Islam. Now, unfortunately, the world that we live in doesn't really project a very good image of Islam. Unfortunately, a lot of people have used religion for their vested interest. A lot of people use religion for politics, and that is the reason why people detest religious people, why people detest going to religious scholars. But let me assure you that in your locality, there's always a nice scholar. In your locality, there's always an authentic scholar. For right now, you need to know who an authentic scholar is and what are the characteristics of an authentic scholar. The second key word is, if you are going to have religious knowledge, then no one can take you on drive. If you are going to have religious knowledge, no one is going to tell you something which is misinformation on behalf of Islam, because now you are well equipped. Now you have equipped yourself with something that you already know, and now you are in a position to argue with someone. Now you are in a position to discuss with someone. So the key thing is, stay connected to a scholar. No matter which level of knowledge you are, you need to keep connected with the scholar. And this tells me something which one of the scholars just mentioned. He said that many times when we acquire religious knowledge, we don't discuss the ideas with the scholar who has more knowledge. So maybe we want to protect our repute. So maybe me, if I don't know how to recite Quran, I will be hesitant in reciting Quran in front of an alim, in front of a scholar, because it damaged my reputation. This reminds me of an incident that once I was sitting with a scholar from Medina University, and we were discussing something, and he said that never hesitate in discussing something in front of a scholar. He said many times when we don't know how to recite Quran, we kind of do not recite Quran in front of a scholar, or when we don't know Arabic, we don't narrate something in Arabic to protect ourselves, to protect our image. But he said that the more you are going to express your views in front of scholar, the more you are going to get rectification. So don't go for your image that, oh, I have such a high image in front of people. If I make a mistake in front of a scholar, what is that person going to think about me? Will that organization invite me again or not? Will they think that I'm not a knowledgeable person? No, we all are human beings. So this person, the scholar which I was talking about, he said that his teacher, who is Imam Hudhaifi, he said that, oh son, do not hesitate in expressing your views, in seeking knowledge in front of scholar. Why shouldn't you hesitate? He said that whatever mistake you make in front of a scholar is actually a gem. It's actually a diamond. And ponder over it. Whatever mistake you make in front of a scholar is actually a gem, because the same mistake, if you are going to make outside in front of people, it's going to cause a lot of fitna. So maybe I don't know how to recite Quran, and wallahi, if I recite Quran in front of people, if some scholar sees it, if someone from the public, he knows it, what is he going to think about me? So it's better for you to make mistake in front of a closed room with some limited people and get rectification, and then lead people, other than making mistake in front of people, telling them wrong fatwas, giving something wrong to them, and being a source of fitna for all of us. Dear people, or dear Muslims, I know that you don't have time, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with a faculty of management. I know that most of you go to universities, go to colleges, go to schools, and most of you are on different level of knowledge. Most of you are on different level of learning. But if you can do PhD, if you can do MPhil, if you can go to whatever university you like, then why can't you seek religious knowledge? The second key thing is, remember that all the prophets, when they died, they didn't leave any wealth behind. The key thing that they left was knowledge. And that is the reason why the Messenger of Allah said that scholars are inheritance of the Prophet, because this is the inheritance. Knowledge is the inheritance. Now in the real life, I've observed that a lot of us, we get inspired from maybe our professor, we get inspired from maybe some of the author, we get inspired by some philosophers. And why do we get inspired? The main reason, according to me, why we get inspired is we lack Islamic knowledge. We don't have the knowledge and the ability to actually recognize whether he's saying right or whether he's saying wrong. And one of the scholars, Sheikh Hussein, he said whenever you seek knowledge for 4 purposes. The first purpose is to understand it, the second purpose is to act on it, the third purpose is to preserve it, and the fourth purpose is to propagate it. So whenever you're reading a book or whenever you're listening to an audio of someone, of a scholar, you need to know that you need to understand it. You need to memorize it so that you can preserve it, and you need to propagate it so that you may tell people that this is right, this is wrong. Oh dear brothers and sisters, the Messenger of Allah told us a dua. The dua is Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'a wa amalan mutaqabbila wa rizqan tayyiba. One of the narrations says Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'a wa rizqan tayyiba wa amalan mutaqabbila. So the first thing is, oh Allah, I seek beneficial knowledge. And what is that beneficial knowledge? That beneficial knowledge is the knowledge of Wahi. And only by requiring the beneficial knowledge, we will be in a state to earn something that is lawful. So this is the reason. The second thing is, oh Allah, I seek beneficial knowledge from you, and that earning that is lawful. So if someone doesn't know what is a lawful learning, how can he generate a lawful learning? Something that he is doing, he has been doing is unlawful. Then whatever spending he is going to make, whatever charity he is going to do, it's not going to get accepted in the sight of Allah. So the third thing is, with beneficial knowledge comes the right earning, and with right earning, with the beneficial knowledge, with the beneficial way of spending the money, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts our deeds. The last thing is, I've realized that a lot of us, while we prepare for CSS examination, we, without studying Quran or Hadith, we actually jump into the history. We actually jump into the history of Khulafai Rashideen. And after that, many of the Khalifas who had a lot of differences, we actually jump into the history of those people who fought with one another. And that is the image that we get out of it. The image that we get out of it is that this all is not good. These were the actions of the Muslims who have actually died. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that what we need to do is, the first thing that we need to seek is the religious knowledge, because this is something that prohibits us from fighting with one another. This is something that stops us from doing something that is wrong. And the last point which I want to tell you is that a lot of us, when we want to become CSP officers, when we want to go on a government level, we get to study Islamic history and Islamic civilization and a lot of Islamic sects and the deviant sects and a lot of clashes between one another. The key thing is that once you start studying all of these without getting the true knowledge of Quran and Hadith, without getting the true understanding of Quran and Hadith, you don't actually get to know that what Islam really is. So a lot of people become detested towards Islam just because they have read Islamic history, just because they have read the differences between Khulafai Rashidin, just because they saw reading one Muslim leader fighting with another Muslim leader, and they make an image that, oh, this is what Islam is. This image that they make is because of the lack of the true Islamic knowledge, the knowledge about Quran and Sunnah. And I really hope that this gives you some sort of motivation. Inshallah, in the link below, I'm going to give you some of the useful websites which you can go, and some of the useful websites which you can refer for seeking Islamic knowledge. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.